Tamara,
Are you there?
welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you?
I am fantastic. And I said earlier, as we kind of got on and met each other for the first time, I truly do feel like I'm in the presence of lifting royalty here because you're somebody I've known about now for a couple of years. And I just remember watching, we'll probably talk about it, but your event at the Rogue Record Breakers in 2022. And I saw that video and was like, this is incredible. So I've been a huge fan of yours ever since. And I'm really glad we get to sit down and have this conversation.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the conversation around women building strength, women in midlife building strength, and either coming back into the weight room after a period of time away or getting into powerlifting or getting into the barbell is just such an exciting conversation. What makes you excited about not lifting only for you and what you do, but for seeing this sport and the barbell growing and getting into more people's hands?
For me, it's like anyone can do it. Anyone literally can do it. Like when you look around in a room full of powerlifters, when you go to a meet, you hear people saying that they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're students, they work construction. I think that's the exciting part about it is like anyone can be a part of the sport and not a lot of people know about it yet. So that's why I want to keep talking about it. And then also for me, it's just going in week over week and proving to yourself that you can do something that you couldn't do before. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy is just coming back to something that I couldn't do before and proving that I can as long as I keep putting in the work. That's what I love most about it.
Absolutely. It's such an exciting thing to do to be able to get in there and see yourself grow. And you hinted at sort of that mental, like, all right, if I can now, I didn't think I could do this. Now I can do this thing. Like, what else could I do?
Exactly.
Um, Take me back to sort of how you started lifting. Like, how did you find the barbell? How did you find powerlifting? What initially got you bit by the bug?
First and foremost, I knew nothing about powerlifting. I am an island girl at heart, born and raised in the US Virgin Islands, never saw powerlifting, never saw Olympic weightlifting. It wasn't something that we saw. So when I moved to Maryland back in 2002, started working, having kids, but I came from a heavily athletic background. I threw shot put. I played volleyball, I played softball, I played basketball. I was a power forward all through high school. So having kids and just going into corporate America, going through a divorce and then coming out on the other side, weighing almost 500 pounds, I had to figure out like, all right, what am I going to do next? The athlete in me was like, all right, we have to do something. So let's go back to something that you did. But when I went back to like trying to get on basketball teams or like volleyball teams, it didn't work with my schedule with two small kids. So I went to the gym and I started doing dumbbell training. Went to another gym and I saw people screaming, chalk was everywhere. And I was like, what are these people doing? This is insane. Like week over week, I go there, you hear someone screaming, people are looking, they stop, they're cheering. And that's actually how I found my coach a couple months after coming back. My coach was there and then he became my coach. And then he told me, do you know people compete for this? Like, I think you should try it. And I was like, sure. And then a year in, I had my first powerlifting competition in 2018. So 2017, I found out about powerlifting by stumbling onto a powerlifting gym. And by 2018, I was competing at my first competition and I came in first.
I'm not sure if people listening to this who maybe aren't as experienced in things like powerlifting or barbell will realize I mean, your strength and accomplishments are incredible, but to do it in such a relatively short period of time, that is just, I have no words for how just like insane that is. That's such a huge jump in your strength in getting in there and these accomplishments that you've done. So if anybody is listening and thinking, oh, I don't know if I could do this, I think this is just so inspirational. So you stumbled into a powerlifting gym,
Uh-huh.
kind of saw people lifting. You were doing some dumbbell stuff, you said. Was there ever any moment for you where you thought, I have to get in shape before I start lifting, or I have to get in shape before I pick up a barbell? Or was there anything like that in your mind that you sort of had to overcome that mental or self-talk, I guess, that like mental switch
Oh
to?
yeah, it started way before 2017. So how it started for me, it started in 2016. 2016, I was 415 pounds. That's the first day I walked into the dumbbell training, where it was just strictly dumbbells for almost a year. So when I walked in that gym at 415, it was a group fitness class. And at 415 pounds, I can do regular push-ups. And I remember people half my size that couldn't do it, that were inspired and like, oh my God, if she can do it, I can do it. And the athlete in me just kind of fed off of that. You know what I mean? But one of the things that really had to change is I had to change from the inside out. So I started giving myself like affirmations. I would do mantras. Again, I'm a single mom, 415 pounds. My kid's still screaming McDonald's every time I pass it. So I still had to like give them cookies and all the things. I didn't deprive them of the things that children want, you know what I mean? But I had to start treating my body like a temple. So I had to change from the inside out first. I had to start saying, Tamara, do you want to look like a crispy salad or you want to look like a greasy Five Guys burger? Like, what do you want? What's more important? And then I started like associating the way that I felt during training with the things that I ate. I noticed if I didn't eat that great, my training wasn't that great. I noticed if I didn't sleep the night before, that my training wasn't that great. So the better I ate, the more I drank water, the more energy I had. So I started associating how I feel with the things that I put in my body. So that's really where it started for me. It
Mm,
started back in the middle or beginning of 2016 and doing dumbbell training towards the end of 2016. But it really started with me fueling myself right.
mm. Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
that's super powerful. And like you said, you made those associations. And so one of the things I talk to my clients about a lot is the idea of your identity. Like, what kind of identity are you trying to foster? You mentioned earlier that you've been athletic your whole life. So what did you lean on, if anything, from that sort of athletic mindset, or, thinking about that and kind of bringing that in? Was there anything, you were mentioning some of the things you would tell yourself, but if you could kind of go back to your younger years, is there anything you kind of drew on there with like that athletic
Yeah.
identity?
I think the athletic identity that I drew on is that anytime I thought that I could do something, I would. I put my mind to something, I accomplished it. And that's who I always was as a child. I remember people saying, you're not going to be able to do that. And I'll be like, I'll show you. And I would get it done. That has always been Tamara Walcott. That has always been Tamara Stevens. That's who I was as a kid. But that was always me. Like, I was known for getting that done. So I think that's one of the things that I really hold on to. Like, if I said I was going to do something, I got it done. And
Mm,
that's what I did when I decided to make that shift. When I got married and had kids, I got lost in the sauce of being a mom and being a wife and forgot to take care of myself. Like, I really got lost in the sauce. And going through the separation and the divorce, I realized that in order to take care of my kids around me, because I can show them better than I can tell them, I'm going to have to take care of myself. Mommy can't be too tired to take you to the park because she's winded. Mommy can't be too tired to get up and do and run with you because she's too tired. My son was a runner. He was one of those kids that you almost had to put the little backpack with the string on. And I was like, I can't run after this kid if I need to catch him. And those are all the little things that I had to say to myself, Tamara, if you put your mind to something, you can get it done. And that's the athlete mentality that's switched back on for me.
mm.
No matter what it is, if I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to get it done.
I love that. Super powerful.
Yeah.
So thinking about, did your dumbbells for a year, then you sort of got into powerlifting proper. What were some of the things that maybe either surprised you about powerlifting as a sport, or getting into barbell lifting? Anything that you wish, if you could go back to that period of time and tell yourself a lesson, or something you wish you knew that you would tell somebody who's kind of making that transition now?
Take your time, less injuries. Don't try to rush the process. Don't look around to see what other people are doing. One of the things walking in, because by the time I started powerlifting, I had lost 100 pounds. So I was about 315 or so. Um, but one of the things that I did a lot of is comparison. And comparison, I realized early on, is the thief of joy. And I would remember walking in there telling my coach, well, I can't squat 225, but this guy's like half my size and he can squat 225. Why can't I? So those are some of the things that I wish that I could roll back the hands of time that sometimes clouded my judgment. Some things that almost made me not want to walk back into the gym. And then also I was really concerned in the beginning with what people thought when I walked into the gym. I would hear people saying like, she should be doing cardio or she should be doing this before I got around the right group because I was still pretty heavy. And those are some of the things that I wish I would be able to like instill in newer people, like focus on yourself and don't rush the process.
Really, really valuable pieces of advice for sure. And I have things too I wish I could go back and say, and I think that they would be very similar. When you kind of walk into a space and you are already new at something, you automatically feel like eyes are on you. And then if you're in a situation where you maybe don't trust the community, you don't know the community as well. And of course, how you show up as a human being and all of your different identities, right, can impact that as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. And when you got in the gym, you started powerlifting. For anyone that doesn't know exactly what the sport of powerlifting is, before we take the conversation much further,
Yes.
how would you explain what the sport of powerlifting is to somebody who's never heard of it?
So someone who's never heard of powerlifting, it is 3 movements. So we squat, we bench, and we deadlift. So you're picking up dead weight off of the ground. You're laying on a bench and you're pressing off of your chest as much weight as you possibly can. And then we're squatting the weight on our back as well. So that's kind of how I would. It's the big three: the squat, bench, and the deadlift. But they're all functional movements to a certain extent, to the point where if I needed to carry a couch because I'm moving, I can make it work. I can move it myself. So I would say strength is extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely love that message here. That's what we're all about.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I came from a little bit of an Olympic lifting background. So whenever people kind of talk about the differences, I'm like, okay, so Olympic lifting, it's like dead silent when somebody's
Oh,
about to snatch or clean and jerk. Powerlifting,
we're screaming.
completely the opposite. So what is a typical powerlifting meet like in terms of like, how do you actually do a powerlifting meet and what is the environment usually like? What's the energy?
Yeah, so I'm actually throwing my first powerlifting meet. It's called the Walcott Records in January, but powerlifting meets in general. My first time walking into a powerlifting competition, my first, and I heard the family screaming, the crowd going wild, weights dropping, powder flying in the air, music blasting to the point where you can walk out to your own song. It's a party. It is a party, okay? But the adrenaline is definitely pumping. You get 1 minute to do your movement, but that 1 minute feels like 10 seconds, but it's the best 10 seconds of your life. So that's pretty much what a powerlifting meet feels like. It's very intense, but also you're seeing people do extraordinary things. So yeah,
The Olympics are currently going on as we speak, and powerlifting is not an Olympic sport
it's not.
yet. Would you
Not
like to
yet.
see that change?
Absolutely. I have like when I broke my first all-time world record in 2021 and I got on Sports Center, was with Ellen and all that stuff. One of the things that I kept saying from then is like, if cornhole could be on ESPN since powerlifting made it there, so can powerlifting. So I mean, let's get on ESPN first. That's what I'm vouching for. And then hopefully these federations can all talk and be friendly so we can end up in the Olympics. Yeah, that would be great.
That would be fucking amazing.
Okay.
And I want to see you there.
That would be so amazing. Like how they schedule the like they already know where they're having the 2038 Olympic. So do I expect this to happen overnight and me be there? I may not be there lifting on the platform, but I will be there on the panel, if that makes sense. So
Mm,
I'm definitely going to be one of those people that are spearheading getting the Olympics to take on powerlifting.
that's amazing. Um, so you got involved with powerlifting, went to your first meet, started competing. in the ins and outs of sort of daily/weekly powerlifting and training, what were some of either the biggest challenges for you and or the things that were most, I guess, pleasantly surprising? Like what did you love about it, and what was also challenging about sort of getting into a rhythm with training for meets and things like that?
I think in the beginning, I don't deal with it now anymore, but in the beginning, I dealt with a lot of mom guilt. I dealt with a lot of mom guilt from the ex-husband or my mom or sisters, friends that just didn't understand. Like I was in here, not only physically getting right, but mentally getting right. Like powerlifting literally saved my life. It saved me from being on my 600-pound life, literally. It saved me from some mental things that I was going through, depression and anxiety. So I literally had to deal with some mom guilt early on. So that's one of the negative things that I wish no one has to go through. But on the positive side, I think powerlifting has made me very structured. I didn't think it would make me such a structured, proactive, and not reactive person. So I've always been a social butterfly. I always looked at the cup half full, in a sense where I just enjoyed life when I was doing what I love. But powerlifting made me very structured. I know I have to get this rest. I know I have to make sure that the kids do this before I do that. So it's made me very organized, very structured. It's made me a forward thinker. Yeah, so that's what I love about the sport that I did. That's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of like that anchor point around which you can then prioritize and schedule, and
Yeah,
you love it, and so it sounds like you're making that time, making the space for doing what you love and helping the other things fall into place.
yeah, yep. And I've
So
always been a athlete. A lot of people, I think, as I started later on in life, my counterparts around me, because my late coach Dan, who passed away, he was 28 when he started coaching me, and I was like 32, and he was not even 28, maybe he was 25. Yeah, he was 25. He was a kid, and I was older. I had two kids. And I couldn't go to the gym 6 days a week like all the other people in the gym. I could only go 3 days a week. So I would train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes Saturday if my kids were with their dad. But I broke an all-time world record just training 3 days a week. So it can be done. You don't have to go 6 days a week. So I made it work by just being as organized and structured and doing what I needed to do.
you had some early success, and when things started to kind of pick up for you, you started to like, how did that go for you? Were you sort of like, okay, I did this meet, that was really fun, or ooh, like that just like tickled that part of my brain, like I need more of this. How did it go for you in terms of now I want to keep training, like I want to keep going forward? Because I know sometimes people will have that sort of one and done checklist. Like me, I did a marathon. I'm like, never again. I'm not doing this again.
We're both there.
One and done.
I did a 10K or something, and I was like, I was thinking about calling an Uber. I was like, why would anyone want to do this? But but I got it.
Totally.
So I didn't call the Uber.
Re- Relatable. So what to you about powerlifting kind of scratched that itch, or you were like, I need more of this after you did your first meet?
So after I did my first meet and came in first, I still was new to powerlifting to the point where it was just still exciting for me. It was just real exciting. But I think the thing that kept me going is I started going to competitions where I saw women around me like deadlifting almost 500 pounds. And I looked at my coach one day, and this by then we were like a year and a half in, almost 2 years in. And I was like, Coach, do you think I could deadlift 600 pounds one day? And he's like, absolutely, you can. So I think he helped me lit that, like, keep that spark that I had. He set it ablaze because as soon as he said, I absolutely think that you can, now I was like, all right, let's get this done. So it went back to that old athlete mentality, that childhood mentality where it was like, all right, Tamara, you can do this. Let's see if you can get there. But one of the things that I always focused on and I never like really like let distract me. It was always me versus me. So when I went to a competition, I never knew who I was competing against, and I never knew what their numbers were. I never cared. To this day, when I go to a competition, I don't know who's on the roster. I'm just showing up to beat my old numbers. So that's one of the things that I think has kind of kept me going, just wanting to beat my own numbers.
Mm. Yeah, that's super powerful. And I know sometimes it's like you said earlier, comparison being the thief of joy. And you can kind of get stuck in your mind about, who's there and all these things that you can't necessarily control. So I love that you're highlighting the importance of running your own race, so to say, and keeping your eyes in your lane. And that's really powerful. So you started competing, you were like, okay, yes, like I've got a coach that really believes in me, and that's so important. Um, what was your trajectory like? So you started competing in 2017, 18, around that period
So
of
my
time.
first competition was 2018,
Okay. And
and
then
I
what
did,
happened?
and then 2019 was the first time. 2019, I came in 19th in USAPL. That was
Mhm.
2019. I would have come in fifth if I didn't pull my if I pulled my last deadlift, which I failed. It's
Mm.
funny because I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was the last girl to pull on the amateur flight at the USAPL Nationals in Ohio. I got it up to over my thighs, but I couldn't lock it out. It got so quiet in the crowd because I was pulling for so long after they were cheering that a guy was like, "Give it to her, just give it to her." Because one thing I don't do, I never drop the bar. My grip strength is strong. But so that was 2019, came in 19th. After that, I always came in first. I never wanted to do that again. So in 2020, I did the Kern, and I came in first there. And then I broke my first all-time world record in 2021 at the showdown in Kansas City. And that's where the trajectory really took off because then I was on Sports Center. Ellen was calling me. I accidentally hung up on her producer, thinking it was a bill collector. Because again, I was a new single mom. Like people were trying to collect bills that I didn't have money for. Um, going through this divorce, but yeah. And after that, it's just been a roller coaster ride. But I'm still riding that wave.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If and when there's a failed lift, or it's like, 3 red lights or like 3 missed lifts or anything like that has ever happened to you, what do you tell yourself? Like, what's your sort of like inner dialogue? How do you coach yourself through that? Or what helps you to get past things like that that might set other people back?
You know what? I have never been a lifter that over analyzing or over critiques myself. I just wasn't ready yet. I was just taught, and I think my coach poured that into me too. And just trying to even think back on my younger years, if I missed a free throw, or if I didn't throw my shot put the way that I should have, and it didn't go as far as I needed it to go. I've never been one to beat myself up. I just kind of learn from my mistake and know that it's not that time. It's not time yet.
Mm,
Especially in powerlifting, and you may know this, and being a weightlifter, if you've done Olympic weightlifting, the numbers that we hit in the gym are sometimes bigger than the numbers that we hit on the platform, right? So the number that I'm going for on the platform is not necessarily as big that I've hit in the gym. But because we're doing the big three that day, it's different circumstances. So I just tell myself I'm not ready yet. It's not time yet. And I
mm,
move on. I don't dwell on things that I can't control. Why dwell on spilt milk? Just clean it up and move forward. I've
mhm.
always been that kind of person.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna like pull that out as a quote, because that's really really very wise and very impactful, and
Yeah.
to like you said, like you're gonna learn from those things and move forward. Like it's all you can do. You can't move back.
Yeah.
So Rogue Record Breakers 2022. Tell the good people. Now you've been very modest up to this point about not actually saying what numbers you tend to hit in the gym, but talk to me about that experience. Why
First
did
of
you
all,
why did you go? What was it like? What did you
it,
lift?
oh my goodness. So getting invited to Rogue to do the record breakers was I was shocked that they were calling to have me come there, but then I wasn't shocked because, of course, of what I just pulled. I could see why they would want me to come there and deadlift, right? So the deadlift that I pulled in 2021 was 600 and 36 pounds. That's the deadlift that record that I broke. So when I got the invite to come and do the Rogue Records Breaker, I think their deadlift was at like I think it was 626. And I actually pulled 641 pounds that year at Rogue Records Breakers and took it from Andrea Thompson, who I was there competing with, that was the current record holder. That day was incredible. I never pulled on an elephant bar deadlift before, an elephant bar before. I never used the plates that they had there. I wasn't able to train at all on that bar. I literally had broken the all-time world record in powerlifting, found out that a month later that they wanted me to come in 2 months to the Rogue Record Breaker, had to go right back into a program, which is normally not typical. Like we usually do an off season, but I had to go right back into a deadlift program, show up, touch the bar for the very first time. I remember being in the back with all these strong man women that have touched the bar before. One girl said she never touched an elephant bar here at the Arnolds, and she kept saying to me, she's like, oh, in her British accent, this doesn't feel right. Does it feel right to you? Or whatever her accent. I was like, it feels fine to me. Now, mind you, I'm like, oh my God, this feels so foreign. But I was like, nope, feels fine to me. So we're warming up, and I don't know if that was her way of trying to psych me out now that I think back on it, but she kept saying, this doesn't feel right. Needless to say, I went out there and I broke the record the second time, and then I broke it again at 641. So I broke it twice on that stage in 2022. Yeah,
I'm going to dig up a link for that and put it in the show notes because y'all need to see just how easy you made it. And not even like that you know, it was a successful lift, you locked it out, but like how easy you made it look.
it felt so light.
641 pounds. I mean, just marinate on that for a minute, dear listeners who are listening to this. And, you know, that's incredible. It was such an incredible thing to watch.
Yeah,
Very, very
thank
incredible.
you. It felt, people were like, how did it feel? I was like, it felt light. Like if they let me pull it a time, I probably would have gone out there and pulled it. It was a good day. It was a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And especially like you said, to do it on equipment you had never used, you know, in an environment that's very different. I mean, a lot of times for athletes, those things can throw you off or, you know, make you feel a little out of sorts.
And you talk about a powerlifting competition being loud and crazy.
Mm.
On the Rogue Record Breaker stage, like I couldn't even hear myself think.
Mm-hmm.
That's how loud it was. It was a huge crowd, all the lights, the cameras right in your face. It was a totally different experience than being at a powerlifting meet. But my coach was there with me. He was there with me. So the second time I got invited, he wasn't there, but for the 641, he was. Yeah.
And then you went back and did another Rogue event. And what happened there?
651 pounds. Yep.
Yeah.
So we had another athlete, what's her name? Victoria Long. She pulled 651 and then I pulled 651 right after her. So we both did that year.
Incredible.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible. So strong. You mentioned earlier how being, you know, just with the time constraints that you have, you know, we're not 20 years old and in college anymore, or, you know, you've got kids, other things to do with your life as well. Training and kind of being really on when you're in that 3 days a week, for example, is really important. So, and then you also said you had to kind of go back and get back on a program. So kind of in an average week, what does your training tend to look like when you're, you know, healthy, not injured, those sorts of things?
So I train every Monday. Monday is a staple for me. Monday's been a staple since I've been on this fitness journey. So Monday's my squat day. I train 4 days a week now. So I added an extra day where I wanted to kind of make sure that I'm taking care of the most important muscle in my body, which is my heart. So I have added an extra day, but I squat on Monday, then I bench, then I deadlift, and then I have a bonus day.
Nice.
Yeah, 4 days a week. But pretty much one of the things that I do is I make sure in the beginning, before I was a little bit of a yo-yo dieter, and I wanted to kind of start because it started in 2015 when I would try, I would fail, I would try, I would fail, I would try, I would fail. I remember one of the things that would make me fail is I would tell myself, you're going to go on Monday, you're going to do this on Monday. And if Monday never, like if I didn't do it on Monday because something came up with the kids, then it would be 5 Mondays from now before I start again, or 5 months from now before I start again. So one thing I tell myself, there are 7 days in a week tomorrow. And I tell it to my clients right now too. There are 7 days in a week. I don't care what 7 days you go to the gym, you just got to go 3 of those 7 days. It could be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It could be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. But for me, I always go on a Monday. I call it never miss a motherfucking Monday. So a lot of my clients train on Monday just because they love the slogan. But yeah, so we never miss a mofo Monday ever. But I switch it up. As long as I go my 4 days, it doesn't matter what 4 days it is.
Mm, so important. And I love how you're highlighting there the importance of being flexible and, having structure within that flexibility and just saying like, I just have to get in there X number of times, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's so important.
Yep.
With, earlier you were saying how certain things started to have to fall in line. Like you had an awareness of how things like your nutrition affected your training or your sleep affected your training. What are some of the more important things that you think especially for powerlifting, has helped you with regards to nutrition and recovery, or that you work with your clients on, like some of the biggest, I guess, challenges that people have when they're maybe a little bit newer into powerlifting or barbell sports, with getting those pieces integrated into their training?
I think one of the biggest things and common misconception, even for me when I was heavier, is that I had to eat less in order to lose weight. And I had to eat less to get the body aesthetic that I wanted to be. It's not that you have to eat less, you just have to eat the right things and fuel your body right, for whatever your performance is or what your program is. Like, do you want to be in a calorie deficit because you're here to lose weight? Or do you want to be have a surplus because you know you're going to lift heavy weight? Like what's important to you is going to deem how you fuel your body. So I think for me is I consume about 2,600 calories. I'm on a maintain when I'm in prep. So I'm not here to lose weight. I'm here to get stronger. So I just make sure that I tell people you just have to fuel your body right. You can't starve yourself and put yourself in starvation mode, especially if you want to lose weight. So I think one of the biggest things is just focusing on eating right. One thing that I did not do when I was my heaviest, and a lot of people I that I coach tend to do as well, is they don't eat breakfast. And it's like that is truly the most important meal of the day. Even if breakfast starts at 2 o'clock for you, it's still the most important meal of the day. So one thing that I did that helped me lose my 100 pounds is I ate backwards. So my biggest meal, even if it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because I didn't like eating breakfast either, my eggs and my steak would be my biggest meal in the morning. So by the time I got to lunch, it was a little bit less. By the time I got to dinner, now I don't feel like I'm starving and I'm not trying to order pizza and Papa John's or Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever it is, because now I'm in starvation mode and I'm going to eat whatever I see. I'm going to eat seafood now, whatever's accessible. And that's one of the things I did for a long time in my life, that I think a lot of us are doing today. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that a ton with people as well. It's hard, right? It's kind of what we've been taught or we've learned. I mean, we used to read it in magazines, I guess, before there was the internet, right? But those sorts of, like you said, backwards types of strategies, and especially if you're challenging yourself, your body, you need that repair. You know, absolutely here to co-sign that idea of fueling for your performance, right? For your lifting to improve your strength. Absolutely.
Yep.
You've been very candid, in social media and things like that about some of the challenges and sort of setbacks, I guess, that you've had with your training. You mentioned losing your coach. I know you've been kind of grappling with an injury. How have you made it through that, especially for somebody who training is such an important part of your life, right? It's been life changing for you. So how have you navigated those challenges?
It's almost like it's familiar now. Like,
Mm.
I feel like I'm always that person that has to take 10 step backwards to take 20 giant leaps forward. And I say that because my journey really started with me losing my grandmother. So I lost my grandmother in 2018. And she used to call me her human crane. It was right around the time I started lifting, right? And she lost her ability to walk. and she was scared of the machine that would put you in and out of bed. So I literally was that one putting her in the chair or moving her to her bed or bringing her to the bathroom. So I literally have been dealing with setbacks my entire journey. Um, After 2019 nationals, uh, the week after, because my grandma passed in 2018. 2019, I was competing sad because she had just passed away not too long ago. We just buried her. And when I got back, I finally pulled 500 for the first time. And I told myself, me being that mindset driven person, my grandmother was the matriarch of our family. She was the oldest of 13 kids. And I know for a fact that she left me her strength because now finally I can pull 500 pounds off of the ground. So I always look for the positive in things. When my coach passed away, I was like, what would he want me to do? Literally got re-invited to the Arnold. I got the call in November to get re-invited to the Arnold in 2023. In December of 2023, he passed away. And no, sorry, 2020, the end of, I'm talking last year. I'm a little mixed up, but he passed away. And I went to the Arnold in March of 2023. And yeah, I'm behind a little. In March of 2023. And I broke 651 pounds because I said I was going to do this for him.
Mhm.
No matter what, I was going to go on the Arnold stage and I was going to pull that weight for him. And I might have my years and my dates mixed up, but pretty much at the end of the day, when I pulled that 651 and he wasn't there with me, I just knew that I was doing it for him, and no matter what, I was going to go there and get it done. And the reason I am still on this journey to this day is because we made a promise as well, and I made a promise to myself that I'm going to be the first woman to squat 700, deadlift 700, and bench 400. And unfortunately, I popped my pec 2 weeks out. Um, uh Last year. So sorry, no, I popped my pec in October. Um yeah, of last year. And I was supposed to compete in October on the 28th, and I popped it on the 16th. So it's just been setback, overcome it, setback, overcome it, setback, overcome it. And I'm relentless. I'm like a dog with a bone. I have unfinished business. I know I can do this, but failure is a part of the process. It doesn't mean to quit and give up. It means to learn what you can learn and press on. I've learned to actually bench better. I'm almost benching 300 again. Today, I have a program to bench 295 for 3 sets of singles. I'm almost to where I used to be. I popped my pec benching 391 pounds. Women don't bench 391 pound on a regular basis. I know that. So injuries, they sometimes unfortunately come with the sport that we're in. It's a dangerous sport. When I popped it, did I think it was over for a split second? But then that old Tamara came back and said, "You got this, bitch. Let's go. You're gonna do this. We gonna get this done. You set some things out, you set some goals, you know what you want to do. Let's go ahead and see what you can do." And I took my time. I went back to that old Tamara and I'm like, "Coach, my new coach now, let's do this low and slow." And that's exactly what we did. And we're building low and slow. I did not rush anything. I did not overthink it. I did not try to overshoot anything. But to get back to your original question, I just push through, I push on. And I expect me failing sometimes and bad things happening to be a part of the process.
Mm.
And I leave, unfortunately, some room for disappointment so I'm not in shambles. um, and just know my why is I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my grandmother. I'm doing it for Dan. I'm doing it for my new coach, Connor, now as well. I'm doing it for myself, you know? So I'm just keeping those things in the forefront because they're important to me.
I need people to go back. I always say rewind, but that's not like really a thing now. So like tap back and, put the conversation back a couple minutes. And I want them to listen to what you said again, because this is one of the biggest sort of permanent stopping points that I find a lot of people bump up against when they're in this like midlife time, right? And things are overwhelming. They've got a lot going on. There's a lot of challenges, and that tweak will happen, the injury will happen, or something really important comes up, and they feel like I just can't do this anymore. So I'm going to walk away for forever. And I mean, I think that's certainly an option, but I want them to hear how you approach it, because I hear determination in your voice. I hear having a clear sense of values or purpose, like why you're doing this is such an important driver of tenacity, of, overcoming things that are in your way and looking for solutions, not letting it completely derail you for forever.
I think
And
one of the biggest things for me has always been staying dedicated to my destination, even if I can't see it. I remember saying I would have a brand and be on TV. I'd said that out loud, and people would look at me and smirk and laugh and be like, what the hell is she talking about? You have a brand and you're gonna be the strongest woman in the world. I started saying that. Like when I decided to change and become the woman that you see standing in front of you here again today, knowing that I used to be that athlete, I hold on to that destination. I knew it was going to be something great. I knew I was going to do something great, no matter what happened. Even if I took a road, I hit a roadblock or took a pit stop, and no matter the route that I took to get there, I still stay on course. I just get
mm,
back in my car and I stay on course. On to the next one. I fix my flat, I get back in the car, I stay on course. So I stay dedicated to my destination, even if everything around me is crumbling, because I know it's temporary. It's temporary. Yeah.
that right there is a masterclass in the mindset of what it takes to keep going when there are obstacles in the way. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I love very much about what you do is you're really out to make a difference with other people in your own way. Like being out there and lifting and inspiring people, is that in and of itself is incredible, but you're also taking a lot of steps to help others, to teach others, to spread what you know, to be a teacher, to be a coach, and to positively impact the sport. And I would love for you to share maybe a little bit about some of the events that you have coming up. Your My Strength is My Sexy, like what is that all about? So how are you taking now what you've accumulated and all of your strength, and how are you sharing that with other people?
I think the first thing that I started was women in powerlifting. That was important for me to share because it came at a time where people were talking about women and their incontinence, that they're peeing because they deadlift. We're structured differently. Unfortunately, our mechanics is a little different. We make babies, it's gonna happen, right? So at the end of the day, that's one of the big reasons that was the driving force behind women in powerlifting. But then also just always hearing like, if you lift, you're gonna look like a man. You look like a man because you have muscle. That's not feminine. Like we're the only species that compares like what a man should do or what a woman should do. At the end of the day, fish, you don't know which one's a man or a woman half the time. Birds, maybe because one's prettier than the other, but they all do the dedicated things. They all fly. They all go and collect the sticks. They all. Why can't we do both? We can be both. We don't have to be a man because we're lifting heavy weight. So that's one of the reasons that I brought out women in powerlifting, but it was important because you saw a lot of the younger girls online getting attacked. And I'm like, I'm going to use my platform because people used to come on my page and say, when Tamara deadlifts, I don't see that she pees. Actually, I do. Your girl just got thick thighs though, so you don't see it, but I do. So I want people to know at the end of the day, like they shouldn't be ashamed to walk in the gym. They shouldn't be afraid to deadlift because they think they're going to pee about what other people are going to say. Listen, don't drop your bar over a little pee pee. You pee, we clean it up and we move on. So that's one of the big reasons why I started women in powerlifting, just to give other women in the sport a platform to kind of have a conversation and have a forum on, to kind of speak about the things that we deal with in powerlifting, to continue to encourage our girls, the younger girls coming up, to be a part of this great um uh sport, because it really is, it teaches so much mental fortitude, and you walk into a community that like-minded people are around you, cheering you on and supporting you inside and outside of the gym. The other one that I created is My Strength is My Sexy tour, because my strength is sexy. I'm a bad bitch. My strength is sexy. So at the end of the day, it's really about going from gym to gym. It's for men and women. So men and women do come to My Strength is My Sexy tour. And we just lift, and I talk about the different techniques and the things that I wish I learned early on in my coaching career, like in my lifting career that I now teach as a coach. Walking out of the squat rack, taking your time, bracing and breathing, not doing what everyone else is doing. No need to add extra weight. Stay on program. Don't go rogue because you see someone else lifting heavier than you. So all the things that I learned throughout my career and the things that I did early on in the beginning where I was like, all right, coach, I lifted a little too much and I think I tweaked my back because such and such was doing that. Like, so I make sure I talk about it during the My Strength is My Sexy tour and just really allowing women to just live in their femininity of being strong, right? So that's one of the things that reasons why I started My Strength is My Sexy.
Mm.
Yeah. So the next one I have coming up is in New York. So the next My Strength is My Sexy tour is going to be in December in New York.
All right, everybody in the New York area or surrounding areas, or you're me in New York for whatever
Come
reason.
through.
Yeah, go show up to that. That
Yes.
sounds incredible. And again, I think it's so interesting and impactful to hear it from somebody who's been through the process. You've been through the trenches, like, and you're sharing that knowledge. Sometimes it's this kind of, I mean, it sounds like you've had some amazing coaches from very early on, but it's the stuff that isn't always explicit or obvious. Like you were saying, how do you step out of the rack? Like, how do you rack the bar safely? I mean, what's the easiest way to load
How
your
do you wedge
plates?
the deadlift? Like these
Yeah.
are things that no one tells you, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's awesome. What else is on your agenda? So I know you recently, well, fairly recently, um, were awarded a very prestigious world record.
Oh,
It
the
starts
all
with,
time.
yeah, the all time.
Okay, so I have the Guinness Book of World Record for being the strongest woman in the world.
Yes.
I was able to secure that at my last competition. That was 1,620 pounds moved in total. So taking that #1 spot in raw powerlifting for the
Wow.
heaviest total. Yeah, that was a day. So Guinness was actually there. I'm glad I didn't know that my team coordinated that. So I actually didn't know they were in the building until it was done, till the deal was done.
Oh.
But that was pretty cool, doing that day. So I took my deadlift from 636 to 639, and then I benched 380 pounds and I squat 600 pounds that day, all in one day. And I think
Wow.
one of the things that my coach always told me, he's like, Tamara, you're not just a squatter, you're not a bencher, you're not just a deadlifter, you're all three.
Mm.
And that's huge because you have people that squat heavy but don't deadlift heavy, or you have people that bench heavy but don't squat heavy. So my weights have always been moving like gradually together. And I think that's one of the reasons why I hold a total.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely incredible. And you're going to be hosting a meet in early 2025?
Yes. So January 11th, 2025 at Exile Gym in Baltimore, Maryland, I am hosting the Walcott Wreckers. That is going to be an annual meet. There's actually a coaching award. So anyone that registers and signs up for this meet can nominate a coach. I'm giving away a Daniel Fox Coach Award in my coach's honor. So that way we can just continue to honor his legacy because it's going to be an annual meet from here on out. But that is the first time your girl will be stepping back on the platform. So anyone that wants to see me compete, you will have to get your tickets online at tamarwalcott.com and just come out and have a good time. There's going to be tons happening there.
Incredible. I'm just so inspired by you, by everything you've done to improve the sport, to help bring new lifters into the fold. You're making me excited to go in and deadlift on Monday next week and
No!
get my Monday lifting on. And I just think it's going to be an amazing trajectory from here. I can't wait to see what you do going forward and how you continue to impact the sport. So
Thank
bravo,
you.
bravo and cheers. And thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.